Hey everybody, I want to take just a minute to talk about Slate and Stylus. I know I hear the question pretty often, does anybody really use a Slate and Stylus anymore? Let me tell you, absolutely people do. For a Braille reader, a Slate and Stylus is like a pen and pencil. It's the perfect way to jot information down, take a note, or my most common use, to keep a to-do list and a calendar. Uh, I guess my calendar has mostly moved to my phone, but there is nothing quite as satisfying as crossing off something that's done, or in the case of my to-do list, erasing the bullet in front of something that's done. So I use my Slate and Stylus all the time for that. I use Slate and Stylus so much that I actually have a bunch of them. So one of the slates that I use, and this is the great one if you're taking notes in college or writing long lists, is a full page slate. The full page slate is convenient because you don't have to move it up and down the page as often, so there's not as much snap it open, slide it down, snap it shut, which of course can be a little bit the noisy part of Slate and Stylus. But there are some massive drawbacks to this. It's huge to carry around. It's plastic, which makes it super fragile and means if you set something on top of it and it's not supported, it will crack and never work correctly again. So they're fragile. They work best at your desk or someplace, but they're not great for throwing in a backpack unless they're in something really rugged that will take care of them. So there's a full page slate. I always just keep my stylus in the little pen spot in whatever I'm carrying. But I actually have multiple slates. So I also have the standard 4-line 28-cell slate. This is the go-to slate for anything and everything. It can go in a bag. It holds up forever. If it gets something set on it, it will bend and you can flex it back to straight and it'll hold up and keep working. And these get holes in the paper much less often than the plastic ones, but that also has some to do with how worn your stylus is and how accurate your pencil angles are. So this slate is a great portable slate, works for everything you can imagine. To use it, you can clip it on the page. If I'm using wide paper, it's going to only go 28 cells across, but if I'm taking quick notes, that's probably not a problem. The side with all of the, I call them egg crates, but with all of the full cells of Braille is the side of the paper you'll write on. So you flip it over and write from the right-hand starting side once you're on the back of the page over toward the left. And I'll do an intro on how to use Slate and Stylus where I'll show you that bit too. But it's a standard slate. It's amazing. The other size slate I use a lot is a single line slate. And you might notice the hinge on it goes the other way. So sometimes I use this on the front of paper just to mark lines I want to come back to, sort of the equivalent of how people highlight in textbooks. I put a little note on the edge of the line that I can just then scan down the edge of a piece of paper, either at the front or back of a line, like in a textbook, to notice something that I want to come back to later. But what it's actually meant for is print paper. And of course, paper that's normal standard print paper cannot go in a Perkins Braille writer. It would produce a lot of lint, a lot of paper dust when stretched out to make the Braille cells that would then rain down into the inner workings of the machine and cause it to stop working. So if you're going to label print paper in Braille, which you do a lot in life because somebody hands you a print handout and you want to remember that this is the handout about the organizational chart for how to submit your dissertation. I need to know which piece of paper that is because I need to take that home and OCR it and get it into a form I can read and reference. Or maybe I've had help filling out a form and I'm going to take it and drop it somewhere and I'm doing many errands today and have lots of different print forms that I need to manage and hand the right one to the right drop box. Then labeling my print papers so I know which are which can be really important. And that's what this is for. You snap it just on the top of a regular print page. Of course, flip it over and write your title on the back. And then when you take it off, you have a print page with all of its information and a label in Braille for yourself of what that print page is, what it's for, that kind of thing. So those are just some of the slates that I carry with me everywhere all the time. I would tell you I have a 4-line slate like this in every laptop bag, every handbag, basically everything that I ever carry anywhere. And then I've got my big slate and my tiny slates in my to-do list book, which is kind of like my planner. So those are some of the slates I use regularly as a person who uses Braille and as a person who uses digital. I certainly am a person who uses lots of digital technologies, but there is nothing that quite replaces pencil and paper and crossing it off for a to-do list. So that's where I personally choose to use hard copy Braille most frequently. I hope that this has been helpful to some people. I'll put the links down below for the various Slate and Stylus options that I use in case any of those sound interesting or helpful to you. And a note to any of my grad students who are watching this, no full line slates for grad school, because one of the skills, of course, we check off in the class is that you can align a slate as you move it down the page. So you do need to be using the 4x28 if you're in my grad school Braille class. All right. Happy Brailing, everyone.